the planet Varnes, for it was a dusty, sun-scorched world far from Earth's colonies. Human explorers rarely came here anymore, not since the trade wars with the Varnesians ended years ago. But Ethan Ward, a former soldier-turned-cargo pilot, had always liked the quiet planets. He didn't need cities, fame, or medals, just peace. One morning, while flying low across the Crimson Dunes, Ethan's ship scanners picked up something strange. A faint distress signal. It was weak, almost buried under layers of static. Most pilots would have ignored it. Varnes was full of broken transmitters and old mining beacons. But Ethan couldn't. Something about the signal felt real, like someone was actually calling for help. He turned his ship, the Aurora, toward the signal. When he reached the coordinates, the sight froze him. A small hover carriage lay overturned in the sand. The air shimmered from the heat, and next to the wreck lay a figure, an elderly alien woman motionless, her pale green skin covered in dust. Two more shapes lay nearby, guards, maybe lifeless. The woman's chest moved slightly. She was alive. Ethan jumped out of his cockpit and ran toward her. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened, golden and glassy, filled with confusion. She tried to speak, but her voice came out weak. "Please, help." Ethan knelt beside her, quickly scanning for wounds. She was bleeding from a deep cut on her arm, and her breathing was uneven. He wrapped a bandage around her arm and gave her a sip of water. "Stay with me. I've got you." As he lifted her, something glinted in the sand, a royal insignia on her arm bracelet. Ethan's pulse quickened. She wasn't just anyone. That symbol belonged to the House of Kalira, one of the most powerful families on Varnes. "Who did this to you?" he asked. "Raiders," she whispered. "They wanted the trade routes." I escaped. Before she could say more, a low hum filled the air. Hover bikes approaching fast. Ethan turned. Dust clouds rose from the horizon. 5 raiders, armed and circling like predators. Ethan gritted his teeth. Of course. He grabbed his blaster and ducked behind the wrecked carriage. "Stay down," he yelled. The first raider fired a plasma bolt that exploded near him. Sand flew in all directions. Ethan returned fire, hitting one bike and sending it crashing into the dunes. Another charged toward him, weapon blazing. Ethan rolled aside, shot twice, and clipped the rider's shoulder. The air filled with smoke and chaos. The old alien woman watched, trembling, as Ethan fought with desperate precision. Every shot counted. Every move was pure instinct. He wasn't fighting for money, medals, or orders. He was fighting because she needed him. Finally, the last raider sped away, disappearing over the horizon. Ethan stood panting, sweat and sand sticking to his face. He turned back to the woman, who was staring at him with disbelief. "You saved me," she whispered. He shrugged slightly, helping her to her feet. "Guess I did." She smiled faintly. "You are human?" "Yeah," he said. "Name's Ethan. You're safe now." But she shook her head. "No one is safe here. Not anymore." Her voice trembled. "You must take me to the Kalira Citadel. My family. They will reward you greatly." Ethan frowned. "Citadel's halfway across the desert. My ship can't handle that distance with you, in this condition." "Then we will take your ship," she said firmly, showing surprising strength for someone her age. "And hurry. They will come again." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, Elder. Let's get you out of here." As they boarded his ship, the old woman turned to look out the window. The dunes stretched endlessly behind them, glowing red under the setting sun. "You are a good man, Ethan Ward," she said softly, "but you do not know what you've done." "What do you mean?" he asked, glancing at her through the cockpit glass. She didn't answer. Her eyes had grown distant, as if she were remembering something painful. When they finally reached orbit, Ethan thought the worst was over. But as soon as he transmitted a rescue signal to the Kalira Citadel, a massive battleship appeared on his scanner. Its design was unmistakable, Varnesian Royal Guard. "Looks like your family sent backup," Ethan said with relief. But the old woman's expression didn't change. Her voice was quiet, almost sorrowful. "They will come for me, yes, but also for you." "What?" Ethan blinked. Before he could ask anything else, the battleship sent a locking beam to his vessel. They were pulling him in, forcefully. "Elder, what's going on?" he demanded. She closed her eyes. "You saved my life, human, and now my family will decide how to repay that debt." The last thing Ethan saw before being engulfed by the hangar lights was a royal crest glowing on the side of the massive ship, and for the first time, a feeling of dread filled his chest. Whatever reward awaited him, it wasn't going to be simple. Ethan's ship shuddered as the Calera battleship pulled him in with a tractor beam. The metallic groan of the hull filled the cockpit, and the light outside turned blinding white as he entered the massive hangar bay. His heart pounded in his chest. He'd been in plenty of tight spots before, but this was different. He didn't know if he was being rescued or arrested. The hangar was enormous, lined with alien soldiers in silver armor. Each one stood perfectly still, their glowing eyes fixed on a small human ship. The elder placed a trembling hand on his arm. "Do not speak unless I tell you," she whispered. Ethan frowned but nodded. The moment the ship doors opened, 2 guards stepped forward, their weapons crossed. "Identify yourselves," one of them commanded in a low, echoing tone. The elder lifted her head with quiet authority. "I am Elder Vanar Calera, Mother of the High Regent. Stand down." Instantly, the guards dropped to one knee. The entire hangar seemed to breathe again. The soldiers lowered their weapons and bowed deeply. Ethan blinked in surprise. The old woman he had found half dead in the sand was apparently royalty. "My lady," one soldier said, voice shaking. "We were told you were lost, taken by raiders." "Lost," she murmured, stepping forward with Ethan's help. "But found again by him." She pointed at Ethan, "A human who risked his life to save mine." Dozens of alien eyes turned toward him. Their expressions were unreadable, part suspicion, part curiosity. Ethan shifted uncomfortably under the stairs. The elder gestured toward the corridor. "Take us to the High Regent. My son must hear this from me." The guards obeyed, leading them through long, glowing corridors filled with murals and alien glyphs. Everything shimmered with soft gold light. The air smelled faintly of spice and minerals. Ethan couldn't help but marvel at the advanced beauty of it all. The smooth metallic surfaces, the quiet hum of the ship's engines, the calm precision in how everyone moved. But as they approached the throne room, the tension grew heavier. The guard stopped before a set of enormous silver doors marked with the royal crest. "Enter," came a deep, commanding voice from beyond. The doors slid open. The throne room was breathtaking. High ceilings, floating light orbs, and a grand seat carved from crystal. Sitting upon it was High Regent Calera, the elder's son. His skin was a darker shade of green than his mother's, his face sharp and regal. 2 golden eyes studied Ethan with quiet calculation. "Mother," the regent said, rising quickly, "you're alive." Elder Vanara smiled softly. "Thanks to this human." She gestured toward Ethan again. "He found me on the dunes and fought off the raiders." The regent turned his attention to Ethan. "A human saved a member of the royal house." His tone was hard to read. Neither gratitude nor anger, just disbelief. Ethan nodded slightly. "She was in trouble. I did what anyone would do." A ripple of murmurs moved through the guards. The regent's gaze lingered on Ethan for a long moment, then softened just a little. "Few humans would risk their lives for one of us," he said. "You have my thanks." Ethan exhaled in relief. "Glad to help." But the elder stepped forward and spoke again, her voice firm. "He deserves more than words, my son. He saved the life of your mother. That is a debt of honor. You know what must be done." The room fell silent. The regent's expression changed, surprised, then uncertain. "Mother, you cannot mean—" "I do," she interrupted sharply. "The ancient law of gratitude. It binds the royal house. A life saved must be repaid with equal or greater value." Ethan frowned. That's not necessary, really. I didn't do it for—" "Silence," one guard hissed, but the elder raised her hand to stop him. The regent turned to Ethan, his eyes narrowing. "Under our law, you must be honored with the gift of binding. It is the great reward, but also a great responsibility." Ethan's confusion deepened. Gift of what now? Before he could get an answer, the elder clasped his hand gently. You will understand soon. For now, you must rest. My people will see to your needs. Two attendants approached, bowing. They led Ethan to a guest chamber, a luxurious room with glowing walls, soft bedding, and a panoramic view of the desert planet below. He sat on the bed, running a hand through his hair. Everything had happened so fast. A day ago, he was just a pilot delivering cargo. Now he was in the middle of a royal ritual he didn't understand. As he stared out the window, a soft chime rang. The door opened, and a young alien woman entered. Her features were graceful, deep emerald skin, golden eyes, and long silver hair braided with jewels. She wore a ceremonial robe that shimmered in the light. "Ethan Ward?" she asked softly. "Yeah. I am Lyra Kalira, daughter of the High Regent." She paused, studying him with interest. "My grandmother speaks highly of your bravery. She has chosen you to receive our family's highest honor." Ethan smiled awkwardly. Thanks, but I still don't really know what that means." Lyra stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "It means, human, that from this day forward, your fate is no longer your own." Ethan froze. "Come again?" Before she could explain further, she extended a slender hand toward his chest, and a soft golden light began to glow between them. Symbols formed in the air, swirling like fireflies. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. "The beginning," she said quietly, "of your bond to House Kalira." The light pulsed once, and everything went white. When Ethan opened his eyes, the room was dark, except for faint golden lights floating above him like fireflies. His chest burned softly where the alien symbols had touched him. He sat up fast, breathing heavily, feeling dizzy and disoriented. What was that?" he muttered, rubbing his chest. The symbols were gone, but a faint mark remained, glowing faintly under his skin like living ink. Before he could stand, the door opened again. Lyra Kalira entered, her silver hair glinting in the low light. She carried a small metal sphere that projected a gentle beam over him. "You're awake," she said softly. "Good." The binding took hold faster than expected. Ethan blinked. "Binding? You keep saying that. What does it even mean?" Lyra hesitated, then walked closer. Her expression was calm, but there was something in her eyes, a mix of pity and admiration. "It means you are now linked to my family, to me." Ethan frowned. "Linked? Like emotionally?" "No," she said, sitting beside him. "Physically, spiritually, energetically. The gift of binding is ancient law. When a royal life is saved, a bond is formed between the savior and the bloodline. It ensures both families share fate and protection." He blinked. "Wait, you mean I'm like connected to you now?" "In every way that matters." Her tone was serious. "If you are harmed, I feel it. If I am in danger, you will sense it. Your life and mine are now intertwined." Ethan's mouth fell open. "You're kidding." "I never joke about the sacred law," she replied softly. "This is how my people repay life debts." He rubbed his face, trying to process. "So, let me get this straight. I saved your grandmother, and now I'm magically linked to you, the regent's daughter?" "Yes," she said, lowering her gaze. "But there's more. The binding also marks you as one of us. You are now part of the royal line by extension." Ethan froze. "Wait, part of the royal family? That's insane." Lyra nodded slightly. "You will be treated with honor, but also with envy. There are those who will not accept a human in our house." Ethan sighed. "Yeah, I kind of guessed that part." Just then, the door slid open again. 2 guards entered, followed by the High Regent himself. His presence filled the room like thunder. "Human," he said firmly, "you have received the gift of binding. You now bear the mark of Kalira." Ethan stood awkwardly. "Look, I didn't ask for any of this. I was just trying to help." The regent studied him carefully. "And help you did, but the law does not ask for your consent. It demands balance. A life saved must be bound." He turned to his daughter. "Has he been informed?" "Yes, father," Lyra said quietly. "He understands." The regent nodded once. "Good. Then the ceremony will be completed at dawn. Ethan frowned. Ceremony? What ceremony? The regent's golden eyes gleamed. The public sealing. The entire court must witness your acceptance. It is not optional. After they left, Ethan sat back down on the bed, burying his face in his hands. This is crazy. How did my life get this weird? Lyra smiled faintly. Welcome to Kalira tradition, human. He looked up at her, half amused, half worried. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Maybe a little, she said. You humans are unpredictable. My grandmother says that is your strength. Yeah. Well, I'd rather have a strength that doesn't get me magically bonded to alien royalty, he muttered. She laughed quietly. It may not be as bad as you think. But before he could reply, a loud clang echoed to the corridor outside, followed by shouting in the alien tongue. Lyra's smile vanished. She stood quickly, her hand instinctively glowing with a faint light. What's happening? Ethan asked, alarmed. She looked toward the door. Something is wrong. Stay here. Before he could argue, she dashed out. But Ethan's chest began to burn again, the same place the mark glowed earlier. He winced, clutching it. Lyra, he called out. The burning intensified with every second. He could feel her fear, her panic, like it was bleeding into him through invisible threads. Lyra, he shouted again, sprinting to the door. The guard were gone, and the corridor lights flickered red. He followed the pull in his chest, running down the hallways, turning corners until he reached an open chamber. There, surrounded by armored intruders, Lyra was trapped. They weren't Kalira guards. Their armor was dark, jagged, and marked with crimson symbols. Pirates, raiders. One grabbed her by the arm. The princess of Kalira. Worth more than a fleet? The raider sneered. Let her go. Ethan yelled before his brain could catch up. The raiders turned toward him, confused to see a human shouting at them. And who are you supposed to be? One laughed. The guy you're going to regret ignoring. He snatched a fallen weapon from the floor, a plasma blade, and charged. The fight was chaos. Ethan wasn't a soldier, but adrenaline and instinct took over. He slashed, ducked, and blocked clumsy strikes. He could feel Lyra's fear in his veins, pushing him harder. The more danger she faced, the stronger his movements became. When the last raider fell, he turned to Lyra, panting. You okay? She nodded wide-eyed. You felt it, didn't you? The link. He nodded slowly. Yeah, like you were calling me. She stepped closer, staring at the faint glow still pulsing beneath his shirt. The binding is stronger than I thought, she whispered. You're not just connected to me, Ethan. You're changing. Changing how? He asked, uneasy. But before she could answer, alarms blared again. This time deeper, sharper, and coming from the entire ship. Lyra's eyes widened. That wasn't the last of them. More raiders are coming, and they know about the binding. Ethan exhaled, gripping the plasma blade tighter. Then let's make sure they regret that too. The alarms roared like thunder across the alien starship, their crimson glow painting every wall in danger. Ethan and Lyra stood in the middle of the chaos, the bodies of fallen raiders still around them. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath their feet. They've breached the outer hull. Lyra shouted, glancing at the glowing console on the wall. 2 enemy ships have docked. Hundreds of them are boarding. Ethan tightened his grip on the plasma blade he picked up. Then we'd better move. Where's your father? Lyra's face was pale but determined. He's in the command chamber. If they reach him, the entire line of succession could fall. Then let's not let that happen. They sprinted through the winding corridors, passing panicked servants and wounded guards. Every few steps, the floor shook with explosions. Ethan could feel the pull of the binding again, Lyra's emotions flooding his senses. Fear, anger, but also something else, a growing trust. As they rounded a corner, 3 raiders appeared, weapons drawn. Ethan didn't hesitate. He rushed forward, slashing with speed that surprised even himself. The blade moved like an extension of his arm, guided by instinct and the strange energy pulsing through him. 1 raider went down instantly. The second fired, but the shot veered away at the last second, deflected by a faint shimmering field around Ethan's body. He blinked in disbelief. What the hell was that? Lyra's eyes widened. The binding. It's giving you my family's shield aura. Ethan laughed breathlessly. Guess that's one reward I can live with. The last raider charged, but Lyra raised her hand, releasing a burst of light from her palm. The intruder flew backward, unconscious. When the corridor fell silent again, Lyra looked at him with awe. You shouldn't be able to channel Kalira energy not as a human. Guess I'm a fast learner. He smirked, but the truth scared him. The glow under his skin was brighter now, spreading up his neck and arms. Almost alive, they reached the command chamber doors, only to find them locked. Lyra pressed her hand against the glowing panel. Access denied, said an automated voice. Ethan frowned. Denied? Why? She looked at him, her expression grim. Because I'm not the heir anymore. The binding shifted the energy signature. It sees you as part of the royal bloodline now. Ethan stared at her. You mean I can open it? She nodded. Try. He hesitated, then pressed his palm against the door panel. The alien symbols lit up instantly, recognizing him. The door hissed open. Inside, the command chamber was chaos. Guards fought desperately against raiders in black armor, blasters firing in every direction. The High Regent stood in the center, his robe torn, directing defense teams. Father, Lyra shouted. He turned, relief flashing across his face. Lyra, and a human lives. Before Ethan could respond, the deck shuddered again as a massive explosion rocked the ship. The ceiling cracked and debris rained down. One of the guards screamed as he was thrown across the room. They've breached the engine core, shouted another soldier. We're losing power. The Regent turned toward Ethan. Human, the bond between you and my daughter. It carries the energy of both bloodlines. You must stabilize the core with it. Ethan blinked. I don't even know how to do that. Lyra grabbed his arm. You don't need to know. Just feel it. She pressed her hand to his chest, and suddenly everything went white. The world vanished. Ethan could see nothing but streams of light, like rivers of gold flowing through an endless void. He felt Lyra beside him, her mind merging with his, her heartbeat sinking to his pulse. Together, they saw the ship's power core, an enormous sphere of energy flickering violently. Guide it, Lyra whispered in his mind. Hold it steady. He focused, pushing his thoughts toward the unstable core. The glowing chaos responded, flowing into balance. The flickering slowed, then steadied. When he opened his eyes again, they were back in the command chamber, everything trembling but stable. The Regent stared at him in disbelief. By the stars, he did it. Ethan stumbled, catching his breath. Let's just say that was one hell of a bonding experience. Before anyone could laugh, a harsh voice echoed through the speakers. This is Commander Krav of the Red Dominion. Surrender the human and the princess, or we destroy your vessel. Lyra's blood froze. They know about the binding, she whispered. The Regent's expression darkened. Of course they do. They came for him. Ethan frowned. Me? Why me? Because the binding gives you something they've sought for centuries, the Regent said. The union of two species' life energy. Power beyond measure. The voice on the speaker laughed. You have 10 minutes, Regent. Give us the bonded pair, or we open fire. The Regent turned to Ethan, his tone grim but resolute. There's only one choice, human. You must leave this ship. Take my daughter and flee. If they capture you both, the binding will become their weapon. Ethan hesitated. Leave? I can't just... You must, the Regent interrupted. Protect her. That is now your sacred duty. Lyra's eyes filled with emotion. Father, no. He placed a hand on her shoulder. My time is over, daughter. But yours and his has just begun. Before she could argue, the Regent slammed his hand on the control panel. A beam of light engulfed Ethan and Lyra. Teleport energy. Wait, no. Ethan shouted as the chamber vanished. In an instant, they found themselves aboard a smaller escape craft, drifting away from the main ship. Through the viewport, they saw the Kalira flagship surrounded by enemy vessels. Moments later, a blinding explosion erupted in space. The flagship was gone. Lyra gasped, falling to her knees. No, Father. Ethan stood beside her, speechless, watching the distant flames fade into the void. Then the ship's console beeped. A message appeared on screen, recorded in the Regent's voice. If you are hearing this, my daughter, then I am gone. Protect the human. He is no longer your savior. He is your destiny. Together, you will decide the fate of our people. Ethan exhaled shakily, his throat tight. Lyra, what does this mean for us? She rose slowly, her eyes glowing faintly with tears and determination. It means, she said, looking out into the stars, that our war just became personal. The escape craft drifted through the dark silence of space. Only the soft hum of its engines broke the stillness. Ethan sat in the pilot's chair, staring blankly ahead. The explosion of the Kalira flagship replayed in his mind again and again, the brilliant flash that had taken everything. Lyra sat behind him, her hands trembling in her lap. Her silver eyes, normally filled with pride and warmth, were hollow now. She hadn't spoken since the blast. Finally, Ethan said softly, I'm sorry, Lyra. She didn't respond at first. Then, in a shaky voice, she whispered, He died protecting us, protecting you. My father believed in something greater than his own life. Ethan turned to face her. He believed in us. Lyra nodded weakly, brushing a tear from her cheek. Yes, the binding wasn't just a link. It was a prophecy. The old scrolls of our people said that one day, a being of another world would bond with royal blood and bring balance to both races. Ethan sighed. So, I'm some kind of chosen one? I didn't sign up for that. Her lips twitched slightly. Neither did I. For the first time since the explosion, they shared a small, fragile smile. Suddenly, the ship beeped, a proximity alert. Ethan checked the screen. We've got something. A planet up ahead looks habitable. Lyra leaned closer. That's not just any planet. Her eyes widened. It's Virella, the hidden world of the exiles. Ethan frowned. Exiles. They're Kalira who refused the Empire's rule generations ago. They were banished here. It's dangerous, but it's also the only place the Dominion won't follow. Then that's where we're going. Ethan said firmly, steering toward the blue-green world below. As they entered the atmosphere, lightning streaked across the sky, painting the clouds gold. The ship shuddered but held steady. They landed in a vast, lush valley surrounded by towering crystal trees that shimmered like glass. Ethan stepped out, taking a deep breath of the clean air. It's beautiful. Lyra followed him, her expression distant. It's also a test. The exiles don't welcome outsiders, especially not humans. Before Ethan could reply, a sharp voice echoed through the clearing. State your purpose, trespassers. Dozens of alien warriors emerged from the trees, weapons raised. Their armor was crude but strong, their eyes glowing the same silver hue as Lyra's. At their front stood a tall woman with markings across her face. A leader. Lyra stepped forward and bowed. Commander Sarai of the Exiles. I am Princess Lyra of the Kalira Dominion. I seek sanctuary. Murmurs rippled through the group. Sarai's eyes narrowed. The Princess of the Dominion comes crawling here? What trick is this? Ethan moved beside her protectively. She's telling the truth. Her ship was attacked. The Dominion is gone. Sarai's gaze shifted to Ethan. And you, what are you? You smell of human. Lyra lifted her chin. He is my bonded one. The prophecy has begun. A silence fell. Sarai's eyes widened slightly, then hardened again. Prove it. Lyra reached out and took Ethan's hand. Instantly, the air shimmered. Their binding mark glowed bright gold. A wave of light rippled across the clearing, bending the air around them. The exiles stepped back, whispering in disbelief. Sarai finally lowered her weapon. By the stars, it's true. Ethan felt the tension ease, but only a little. So, does this mean we're welcome? Sarai studied them for a moment before nodding slowly. You may stay, but know this, human. Prophecy or not, our people trust only deeds, not words. They followed her through the crystalline forest to a vast settlement built into cliff sides. Alien homes carved from glowing stone, streams of liquid light flowing through channels. The exiles watched silently as the newcomers passed, their stares a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Inside a temple of crystal pillars, Sarai motioned for them to sit. You're safe here for now, but the Dominion's enemies won't rest. They'll come for the binding sooner or later. Lyra nodded. Then we'll be ready. Sarai's gaze softened slightly. You've lost much, princess. Yet, perhaps this loss will be your beginning. That night, Ethan and Lyra sat by a small fire outside their new shelter. The stars above were bright, brighter than any sky Ethan had ever seen. You know, Ethan said quietly, when I joined that rescue mission months ago, I thought the biggest problem I'd have was surviving alien food. Lyra smiled faintly. And now, he looked at her. Now I'm sitting on an alien world, bound to a princess who can throw lightning and quote prophecies. So, I'd say life got complicated. She laughed softly, a sound he hadn't heard since before the attack. Complicated isn't always bad. Ethan studied her face, the soft light from the fire reflecting in her eyes. For a moment, he forgot about the war, the binding, the prophecy, everything. But then the ground trembled. A deep rumble echoed from the horizon. Lyra stood quickly, her expression tense. That's not thunder. A scout ran into the camp, panic in her voice. Commander Sarai, there's movement near the perimeter. Unknown ships heading this way. Ethan's stomach dropped. They found us. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. No, this energy's signature. It's not Dominion. It's something else. Sarai appeared already armed. Everyone to your stations. Ethan grabbed his weapon and turned to Lyra. We just got here. She nodded grimly. And we may already have to fight for it. As the night sky burned with the light of descending ships, Ethan felt the binding pulse again, stronger, deeper. It was as if the universe itself was preparing them for what came next. And in that moment, he understood something. This was no longer just survival. This was destiny. The ground shook again, harder than before, sending ripples through the loose red dust that covered the valley. Ethan steadied himself as alarms echoed through the alien camp. From the cliffs above, fragments of glowing stone fell like sparks. Overhead, thin streaks of fire cut to the dark clouds. Landing pods, dozens of them, burning as they plunged toward the surface. Commander Sarai's voice sliced through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Defensive positions. Shields up. No one fires until I give the order. Ethan crouched beside Lyra near the outer wall, gripping his rifle so tightly that his knuckles whitened. They're coming in fast, he muttered. But what are they? Lyra's silver eyes shimmered as she focused on the sky. Not Dominion soldiers, she said quietly. Something older. Ethan frowned. Older? You mean another alien race? She nodded, her tone darkening. The Dravkel, my father warned me about them. They were the Kalira's first enemies, long before the Empire rose. They consume energy, living energy. They feed until nothing is left. Ethan felt his stomach twist. You mean they eat people? Lyra's silence was answer enough. A thunderous crash ended the conversation as the first pod slammed into the valley floor. The door hissed open and shapes stepped out. Tall figures with glass-black skin that reflected the light like polished stone. Their eyes glowed an unnatural blue, and faint electricity rippled across their bodies. When they moved, it was too smooth, too fast, like shadows gliding over the ground. Sarai raised her weapon. For Varela, she shouted, and the battle began. The exiles surged forward, firing arcs of blue plasma that lit the battlefield. Ethan joined them, his rifle kicking with every shot. He hit one of the Dravkel square in the chest, but instead of falling, the creature absorbed the blast. The energy crawled over his body like liquid fire, then vanished into its skin. Ethan cursed. They're feeding off it. Lyra thrust her hands forward, lightning flashing from her palms. The air screamed with power, yet even her strike faded as the enemy drank it in. They adapt too quickly, she cried. Ethan ducked behind a rock as a counterblast ripped the crater beside him. Then we find something they can't adapt to. Another explosion threw Lyra backward. Ethan sprinted to her side, pulling her from the smoke. Her armor was cracked, her breathing ragged, but she managed a weak smile. "I'm fine," she gasped, then her eyes widened. "Ethan, your mark." He looked down. The golden binding symbol on his wrist pulsed with blinding light, beating like a living heart. "What's happening?" he asked. Lyra stared, realization dawning. "It's reacting to the energy around us. The binding connects our life forces. It's amplifying you." In English, Ethan shouted over the noise. "You can use it," she yelled. "The bond ties us together. Focus on it. We can combine our strength." Ethan hesitated for half a breath, then grasped her hands. He closed his eyes and felt it, a surge of warmth, of life, of her. Their minds brushed for a heartbeat, their souls touching to the golden link. The mark flared brighter, a blinding sun between them. "Now!" Lyra screamed. Together they released everything. A wave of golden light exploded outward, rippling across the battlefield like a living storm. The Dravkel shrieked as the energy tore through them. Their glassy bodies shattered, breaking apart into ash and sparks. The blast consumed everything until silence returned, heavy and absolute. Ethan fell to one knee, gasping. The world spun, the mark fading back to a faint glow. Lyra knelt beside him, trembling. Around them, the exiles stared in stunned awe. Commander Sarai stepped forward slowly. "By the stars, you destroyed them." "Not all," Ethan said hoarsely. "Some escaped." Sarai's jaw tightened. "Then they'll come again, and in greater numbers." Lyra rose unsteadily, still holding Ethan's hand. "They found us somehow. Varela was supposed to be hidden. Someone must have told them." "You're saying there's a traitor?" Sarai asked. "Or something else," Ethan murmured. "Maybe the binding itself drew them here." Night fell over the valley. Fires burned low as the survivors gathered around the ancient temple. The exile's eyes followed Ethan wherever he moved, no longer seeing a stranger, but something more. Sarai addressed him quietly. The prophecy spoke of the bonded one who would bring both ruin and rebirth. Tonight we've seen both. Ethan forced a tired grin. "Rebirth sounds good. Let's skip the ruin next time." Lyra laughed softly, but her eyes remained distant. "That power we used, it felt alive, like it was thinking." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, almost like it wanted to take control." "The binding grows," she whispered. "It learns from us. If we don't master it soon, it'll master us," Ethan finished. Before they could say more, a deep hum rolled across the valley. The horizon glowed red once again. Sarai's expression hardened. "They're not finished. The Dravkel never retreat for long." Ethan rose, gripping his rifle. "Then we'll be ready." Lyra looked up at him, the firelight reflecting in her silver eyes. "You once said you were just a soldier, but now you're something else." He met her gaze. "Maybe, but I'm not stopping until this is over." The red glow on the horizon brightened, painting the sky in warning. The binding on Ethan's wrist pulsed again, stronger, louder, alive. He felt no fear this time, only the pull of something vast and waiting beyond the stars. Whatever was coming next, he knew one thing for certain. Their story was far from over. The dawn over Varela was not peaceful. The red horizon still shimmered with smoke, and the air tasted faintly of ash. Ethan stood on the edge of the valley, staring toward the rising sun. His body ached, his armor was cracked, and the golden binding mark on his wrist still glowed faintly, like a heartbeat that refused a rest. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired, like a man who had seen too much and understood too little. Lyra approached quietly, her silver hair catching the early light. She carried something wrapped in a dark cloth. "You should eat," she said softly. Ethan gave a weak smile. "After everything that happened, you still remember breakfast?" She smiled back, but her expression turned serious. "The Dravkel are regrouping. Commander Sarai says their ships are gathering on the far side of the moon. They'll be back." Ethan nodded. "Let them come. We'll be ready." But Lyra didn't move. She hesitated, then unwrapped what she held. Inside was a crystal sphere, glowing faintly blue. "My mother, the elder you saved, she asked me to give this to you." She said it's your reward. Ethan blinked. Reward? After all this, I don't think I need one. Lyra shook her head. It's not something you can refuse. It's ancient Kaliran custom. When someone saves the life of an elder, they're granted a gift of blood and memory. He frowned. That sounds intense. She stepped closer, holding the sphere between them. It's more than a gift. It's a bond between lifetimes. When you touched her hand that day, something passed into you. The sphere completes it. Ethan stared at it. What happens if I take it? Lyra's voice trembled slightly. You'll see her memories, her past, her pain, her power. And part of her essence will live in you. It could change you forever. He hesitated. And if I don't? Then the bond fades and she dies, Lyra whispered. The silence stretched between them. Ethan looked at the crystal again. It pulsed faintly, as if it were breathing. He could feel warmth coming from it, a soft, gentle pulse that reminded him of the elder's hand when she thanked him for saving her. Finally, he nodded. If it keeps her alive, I'll do it. Lyra's eyes glistened. Then hold it close. Ethan took the crystal in both hands. The moment he did, a wave of warmth shot through him. His vision blurred. The valley disappeared. He was standing in a vast white space filled with light. In front of him stood the elder, whole radiant, younger now, her long silver robes flowing around her. Ethan of Earth, she said, her voice echoing gently. You saved what should not have been saved. You gave life where none should have remained. I just did what anyone would do, he replied quietly. She smiled sadly. Not anyone. Most would have turned away. You ran toward danger. And for that, the stars themselves must answer. The light around them shifted, showing flashes of memory. Wars fought among the Kalira, the rise and fall of empires, the slow corruption that brought their world to ruin. Ethan watched in silence as the elder's memories filled him. Her pain, her love, her regrets, all poured into his mind like water into an empty vessel. Finally, the visions faded. She looked at him one last time. You now carry our history, our blood, and our hope. The binding between you and my daughter is not chance. It was destiny. Together, you will decide what becomes of both our species. Before he could reply, the light faded completely. Ethan opened his eyes. He was lying in the temple courtyard, the morning sun warm on his face. Lyra knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. You're awake, she whispered. He sat up slowly. The golden mark on his wrist now glowed brighter, surrounded by faint patterns that looked like alien script. She's gone, he said softly. But she's not. She's part of me now. Lyra nodded. Then she chose well. Commander Sarai approached, her expression unreadable. The elder spirit has vanished from our sensors, but the binding energy around you has doubled. Whatever she gave you, it's powerful, dangerous, maybe. Ethan stood, gripping his rifle. Then I'll use it to finish what she started. Sarai studied him for a long moment, then bowed her head slightly. The council wishes to honor you. They say no human has ever carried a memory of a Kaliran elder before. Lyra smiled faintly. They'll build statues, sing songs, and tell stories about you for centuries. Ethan chuckled. I don't care about statues. I just want peace. She stepped closer. Maybe we can build that together. He looked at her, really looked at her. The way the sunlight glowed in her silver eyes, the quiet strength in her face. Together, he said softly. But before the moment could settle, the sky above them rippled with light. A fleet of dark ships emerged from hyperspace. The Dravkel had returned, larger and angrier than before. The ground trembled as alarms blared through the valley once again. Sarai shouted orders, soldiers scrambling to prepare. Ethan and Lyra exchanged a look that said everything words couldn't. She reached for his hand. Whatever happens next, we face it together, he finished. The binding mark flared gold between them, brighter than the sun. Above them, the sky burned red as the next war began. And somewhere deep inside him, the elder's voice whispered softly, Now, human of Earth, show them what mercy can do.